This episode of the Fiction Writers Podcast is brought to you by How to Write a Novel That Sells. Do you dream of writing a best-selling fiction novel? With the right tools, you could get there sooner than you think. Visit www.howtowriteanovelthatsells.com and unlock the secrets to writing compelling fiction taught by international best-selling author Lana Mcara. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana Mcara, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
Have you ever made excuses about why it's not a good day to write, or maybe why you can't write at all? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast, tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I am delighted to welcome Ivan Scott. Ivan has 5 published books, and they're all romance and romantic comedies, or otherwise known as rom-coms. He lives with his redheaded wife, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later here, 2 troublemaking kids, and a rescue dog named Beasley in the Atlanta suburb of Sandy Springs. And your book titles are all about a redhead. I saw that, Ivan. I went over on Amazon, looked you up, and I see the redhead in Brooklyn, the redhead in the blue convertible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you sensing a theme here? Yeah.
Ivan is a member of the Atlanta Writers Club and a former college soccer player at East Tennessee State University.
Yep.
Yes. And I lost my place here, Ivan.
Oops.
The thing I want to, just highlight for a moment, we're not going to talk about it the whole time, but Ivan has dyslexia, and he's made the most of his challenges by using them as a way to think outside the box to create stories of romance that his readers will love. Welcome, Ivan.
Lana, I tell you, it is great to be here. I've seen, your podcast before, and I was like, wow, if I could ever be on the show, this would be a good thing. So I am just so excited to be here and glad that you have me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here, that we're together, and we are very close in location. I live in Live Oak, Florida, which is about 4 hours south of Atlanta, and I love this part of the country. I really do. I've lived out west. I've lived overseas. I love this part of the country. It's a great place to live. So what gave you the idea to start writing about, and first of all, is the main character actually your wife, or is it just someone with red hair?
Well, it's funny because the characters in my books all come from various parts of my wife. So, I pick up anecdotes, things that she's done, just the first time that we met, the first time that I ever, it's like we went out on our date, the first time we ever held hands, those kind of things. So I incorporate those into the books. And to me, it's something really special because it's like, no matter what happens, to me in the years down the road, those times of our lives together are always going to be out there. They're not going to be, hidden, in a closet somewhere, or forgotten memories and that kind of thing. And so I think that's one of the things that, things that happen with her nickname is Red, go figure. So those are things that happen with Red and I that I just enjoy writing about, and will live on forever.
That is so cool. I've never seen anybody do that before. We cherry pick kind of, from people in our lives that do funny things. But to have you actually start an ongoing series, I think that is the funniest, coolest thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what gave you the idea to do that?
Well, I've always had a passion for writing, and one day it just hit me. I mean, this was years ago, and it was like, look, you need to get serious about this, because one day you're not going to be able to write. And you're going to look back on it, and that window's going to have closed, and it's going to be a big regret. And so it's like, okay, I've got the time right now. to do something about it. So I'm going to start writing. I'm going to start to get serious about it. And I started off just like, anybody that started. I didn't, I had the stories in my head, but I didn't know how to get them out. And so I did research on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and they have a free service for authors. You do all the work, and then you upload your book, your manuscript, and then they kind of take it from there. And so I was like, okay, that's my avenue. Because as many people have probably hit the wall like I have, when you send queries out to agents or publishing houses, the chances are not very good that it's going to be accepted. So it's like, okay, I can't go that route. So what route am I going to go? So when I found Barnes and Noble and Amazon and this whole new world for indie writers to get your books out to the world, I was like, wow, okay, there's somebody's done something for the indies. So I took advantage of it. And like you said, after the 5 books and a 6th one coming out, and then a 7th one, hopefully in the spring of 2025, I've got an avenue to do this. And I think the biggest thing is I'm going to look back and not be able to say, I regret not doing this, because I am able to do this and to kind of live a dream. And Lana, it's funny because it's like my father always told me, it's like, when we hit adversity or when we really want something and it's not handed to us, he would always tell me, well, either you find a way or you find an excuse. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to make an excuse about this. I'm going to figure out how to do it and get it done. And it just kind of went from there. And to take it a step further, with the indies, you have to do all the formatting, all the book art, all the blurbs, everything. And so I had no idea how to put a book cover together. So I'm like, well, okay, well, who says that I can't do it? So I learned Photoshop, and after months and months of trial and error, I finally got a cover that I liked. And so, I've learned Photoshop. I didn't know how to format a book. So it's like, well, what does it take to format a book? And so I learned how to do that. And so I guess maybe I'm just like the biggest literature student, or the biggest, writer student, if you want to call it that, in the world, because I'm learning so much as I go. But for everybody that's listening out there, it's like, there's no reason why you can't, reach the goals that you want to reach, write the books that you want to write, because it's out there. As long as you have the passion and the persistence to do it, it's going to happen.
Yes. There's so many things I want to unpack from what you just said. There's no reason why you can't write the books you want to write.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are and I publish traditionally, my first 25 books are traditional. They tell you, and you can submit your idea and they'll look at it. But if there's a part of it they don't like, they'll say, oh, we don't want that part. You have to change that or leave this out. And they'll actually pick apart your work. So when you're an indie author, you don't have to deal with that. You can make the book as you like it. I love that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did a lot of learning.
Oh, and it's funny because, Lana, I go like every day, wake up in the morning. It's like, okay, nothing about the publishing industry. Nothing about being an indie writer. So start from zero and let's move forward. And I've trained myself that, because there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, I can get this done, whatever. And then I fall flat on my face, and it's like, oh, if you would have been a little more humble, if you would have been a little bit more, what, maybe I don't know about, this, then maybe things wouldn't have turned out that way. So I always approach it as, okay, I'm learning from scratch today. What can I learn and how can I get better?
That's such a great mindset in all areas of life. So you have dyslexia, and I'd like to talk about that just a moment. One of my sons has dyslexia, so I understand what that is. So how did that limit you when you were in school? What was your experience like?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. When I was going through school, the numbers, like math numbers, would just jive. They would just kind of like come together like tumblers, like, the lottery balls would come together. I'm like, oh, I can't focus on this. I can't understand how this works. And back then when I was growing up, it's like my father would hit me in the head to say, try harder, because we didn't really understand, these things. It was just, people would look at it as, oh, he's just not trying, or he's just not, putting forth the best effort. He's not focusing, that kind of thing. Whereas today it's like, wow, it's not that you don't want to do it. It's just that you can't do it. And so both of our children have dyslexia and they have ADHD. Fortunately, where we were, there were schools that we could send them to that would, kind of help them and give them tools to say, okay, instead of going from A to B, we're going to go from A to D, and then from D to M, and then from M to S, and then we'll get to B. And so it was kind of the same thing. It's like, and they told us, and then we obviously imparted this to our children. It's not that you're stupid. It's not that you're not smart enough to get this done. It's just that you learn a little bit differently. So you still get to the destination. You just go at it in a different way. And you should never, ever feel, ostracized by that, or feel less, or feel shallow, or feel stupid about that, because that's just the way that we learn. So as I got through school, high school was a little difficult, but I got through it. And so in a weird kind of way, like you said, I played soccer at East Tennessee State. I graduated. The weird kind of way that I mentioned is college was easier for me than high school, because in college they would say, okay, I want you to write a paper on why this event happened, and give me some of the emotions, and give me some of the reasons, and give me some of your opinions on, okay, let's say that why Hitler invaded Poland in 1939, starting World War II. And so I was able to write everything out and give my opinions and form some opinions. And then send those papers in. Whereas before in high school, it was like, okay, the test is, okay, question number one, A, B, C, or D. And then it's like, oh shoot. And then of course, everything would get jumbled up into my head. So that's why college was easier for me, because I could kind of think out of the box. I could be more creative, instead of kind of feeling like I was, put into this square, whereas, okay, it's only going to be one of these answers, instead of, okay, tell me why this event happened. So
Yes, I understand that so well. Yeah, my son is so talented, and he works so well with his hands, and he's quick to pick things up. He's amazing. Just didn't do it the way they wanted him to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, when our daughter Sophie, when she was diagnosed with dyslexia first, Red was just, so distraught, and she was, crying, and it was a very difficult time. And then after the shock of everything kind of wore off, we sat down and we talked about it. And I said, this might be the greatest thing in the world for her, or for anybody with dyslexia, because the dyslexia community, there are so many creative people. They think outside of the box. They find new ways to do things that maybe somebody, and this isn't anything negative towards people who don't have dyslexia, but maybe their creativity is going to help them to find a solution to a problem that nobody ever thought of before, that other people can follow, dyslexic or non-dyslexic. Mm-hmm. So maybe, and back again to where, you try to make the most out of, what is a perceived weakness, could end up being a strength. As long as you embrace it, and and you follow up with hey, I can do this, whatever it is. It's just going to take me a little bit longer, but I can get it done.
Yes. So how does that affect your actual writing process that you do to get your books done?
Well, it's funny, because with my dyslexic brain, I have to do everything differently. So the way that I write my books, I have notebooks, spiral bound notebooks, and I take pen, and I just start writing and writing and writing and writing. I don't outline. So what you would call in the industry, I'm a pantster. I write by the seat of my pants. Mm-hmm. And this is nothing against plotters. I envy you. I wish I could write it out and say, okay, number one, A is this, B is this, C is going to be this, and then follow that when I write. But I just can't do it. I feel like I'm closed in and shut off, and the creativity is just not there, because I feel like I'm following a blueprint step by step. Whereas the way that I do it is, I have the story in my head, and I'm like, okay, Catherine is going to move to Iceland, and then she is going to play the viola. Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. Let's not, maybe not Iceland. Let's have her move to Scotland. Let's do. And so all these things are coming together. And, if I would have plotted this out, it would have been, this, and this, and I would have pretty much stuck to the script. But now, with the way that I write, there's so many different options to say, you know what, in Scotland, she has this, but you know what, if she moved to China, she's got this. And so to me, that helps me to be, I think, a better writer, just for me, and to be more creative, and hopefully give the reader a experience, kind of like an escape, that they can escape into this story and kind of follow, the characters. So that's kind of what happens in the first part of my writing process. Is I'll write it all in notebooks. Then I have to transfer it to the laptop. And so then we'll move it to the laptop, and then I'll go through and just edit. But what I'll do is, the laptop sometimes is a little difficult for me, again, because I kind of feel like boxed in. So I'll print it out, and then I'll take, I'll take sometimes Sharpies because I like to color. Okay, now watch out for this. And, and blue is going to be this. And okay, yellow. Okay, this is going to be the location and so on. So I can put colors in there. I can stretch out sentences. I can write stuff in the margins, that kind of thing. And then that all gets cooked together and then back to the laptop. And then eventually, hopefully, I've got a manuscript. That's kind of my writing journey. And I know it sounds kind of discombobulated and just crazy, but consider the source.
Well, actually, Ivan, I do a lot of that similar kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. I'm a plotter, but I loosely plot, and I do it in pencil, and I'm very easy to erase something out and change it. I just want to know where I'm headed.
Yeah.
But then I print it out on paper, and I do just what you said. I go through it, I scratch out, I actually will cut the pages and move this over to the other place.
Yeah.
Until I
love that. I just love that.
Have what I want, then back to the computer, and I got to transfer this back to that. It's just something about the tactileness of the paper and holding it and working on it with the pens and that kind of thing. So yes, not quite so far off as you might think.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now I don't feel like I'm way, way out there. I've got you to lean on. So thank you for telling me. I feel better now.
Awesome.
Another thing that I do, a couple, just things for the people that are listening that maybe they might help them at some of the craft stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's. They sell these big newsprint notebooks, but they're huge. And what I like to do is that sometimes if I hit the creative wall, or if I'm not sure where the story's going to go, I'll pull out the newsprint and I'll pull out the Sharpies and I'll just like write in color. Okay, blue is Mark, my character. Okay, red is Catherine. And then I'll draw lines. Okay, now Mark is going to go here. And then like maybe a line this way to, okay, well, wait a minute now if he's here, those kind of things. And so it's like if I can visualize it and see it, it does help sometimes with the creative process. The other thing, and I don't know if you ever have this issue, or if our listeners and the people watching the podcast, if they have this, I by this time, since I've been writing, it's been about 5-6 years, I would have like 10 books on the New York Times bestseller list, but I lose all my ideas in the shower. I have the greatest ideas in the world in the shower, and then by the time I get out, I've forgotten them all. And I'm just like, okay, just scratch whatever it was. I'm trying to remember them and I can't. So what I did was I did a little research on it, and I found that on Amazon, they have waterproof pads that go in the shower. There's waterproof paper and pencils, and it has little suction cups. And so it's like, I stick it up on the wall and it's like, I got it. Okay, get the pencils. And I never forgot an idea. Now, I'm still not a New York Times bestseller, far from it, but at least I will not forget another idea in the shower. So if you ever have that problem, or, the other thing, maybe you're driving to work or you're at a stoplight, little notebook, keep that in the car with me. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I can write that down. And then, so I won't forget that either. A lot of times people will take their phones and they'll give themselves a little audio record message. And so that's another way not to lose an idea, because we have such great ideas that sometimes we just don't, have a way to write them down, remember them, and they get lost. So hopefully that'll be some good tips for the people that are watching.
Yes, those are great tips. I didn't know you could actually get a board in the shower. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's called Aqua Notes. So if you go on Amazon, type in Aqua Notes, and it's a little waterproof pad, and it comes with a couple of pencils, little suction cups on it. Never forget another idea again.
That's terrific. I send emails to myself with my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually send it to the same email address that I'm mailing from. Just send it. Yeah.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah, because I got my phone right there. So how does your wife feel about being the star of your rom-coms?
I tell you, sometimes it is, and I say this in a good way, she's my biggest critic, but not critic, but it's like, wow, you didn't put in there that I like to drink Diet Coke in here. You put in that she likes to drink, such and such. And I'm like, shoot. Okay. Well then, you got to change it that way. Or she'll say, wow, you put in that story about us, the night, that we were on our honeymoon, that kind of thing. But don't you remember that you did, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, that kind of thing. So I have to get the details right or I'm going to be in big trouble, but that's a good thing. I've got somebody watching over me to make sure that I get everything right. So, but she loves it. She, she's, reads the books and all that. And, I think that, as we get older and grow older, those will be some of the things, those books will be something that will kind of, bring back memories of our times together. Because if you think about it, wouldn't it be great if you had a book of stuff that, a great time in your life, maybe 20, 30 years ago that you'd like to relive. So I think that, one of the reasons why that I write and have her as the characters and all that is kind of like a present back to her of our time together and some of the silly things that happen and some of the serious things that happen that we've gotten through. So I think that she, really enjoys it. And, one of these days, years and years and years from now, once I'm gone and she's still here, it's going to be like I'm still here. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting that you chose to do it as fiction rather than memoir or some other form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So this is really helping us because I'm sure it's sparking off some ideas
Yeah.
for people listening. What advice would you give to writers who are watching and they haven't even started yet?
I think I go back to a quote from Hemingway where he said, and I forget the exact words, but basically he was talking about starting. He's like, write one true sentence, the truest sentence that you know. And then from there, everything kind of flows.
Mm.
So I think that would be my advice to writers is that just start writing, because that's the biggest thing. If you don't have anything on the paper, then, there's nothing to edit. There's nothing to, enjoy. There's nothing to be angry about, those kind of things. I also think you have to have a very thick skin. Once you get, your writing done and you send it off to be queried and that kind of thing, it's going to be a lot of rejection. It's going to be a lot of hurt feelings and all that. So you have to have a very thick skin. I think, when I started, in the writing process, it was one of those where it's like, my God, I found my calling. This is what I wanted to do. And it just kind of opened up. And so it was easy for me. But writing will test you. It'll test your resolve because there's going to be days that you don't want to write. And it's like, well, you know what? I want to be a writer, so I have to write. So, maybe it's a deal where you write 100 words and then you're like, okay, that's all I can do. Because I know a lot of people that say, oh, I'm going to write a book. Oh yeah, no problem. Whatever. And then you ask them about it a couple of weeks later and it's like, oh, well, I got busy at work and I couldn't do it. Or this happened and I couldn't, I just haven't had time to sit down. But I think if you really want to do it, you'll find the time. When I was writing my first book, and our kids were a little bit younger, the only time that I had to write was 4:30 in the morning because the kids had to be up by, I think it was 6 o'clock, and we had to get them dressed, we had to get their baths, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, back to the whole thing about finding a way or finding an excuse. And it's like, okay, the house is quiet, nobody's emailing me, I don't have any responsibilities. So I would write from 4:30 to about 6 o'clock when the kids would get up. And that's when I got my work done. So I think you have to have a drive. You have to have a passion for it, and you also have to be persistent about it as well, because there's going to be some times where it's like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if I want to write today, or you might write something and say, man, this is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever written. Nobody's going to want to read this and all that. And when that happens, you just got to say, hey, yeah, everybody writes bad stuff, but you know what? I'm going to cross that out and I'm going to go forward. Mm-hmm. So never get discouraged about it, because, to me, writing a lot, and I'm not a golfer, but the analogy that makes a lot of sense to me is golf. It's a game that you can play, but you can never win. Writing is the same way. It's something that you do, but you can never, you're always going to say, you know what, I can make that sentence better. Or, you know what, that paragraph's pretty good, but you know what, let me take an extra 30 minutes. Let me work on it again. So I think those are kind of some of the things that I went through when I started. I think also a good writing community, you have to have people that you can bounce your ideas off. And it's nice to say, hey, I wrote this. Here, take a read of this. Let me know what you think. Is it, does the main character need X, or did I set the scene up correctly? Those kind of things. So I think that if you immerse yourself in a writing community where you have people that can give you honest feedback, That is also a big help, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, or maybe it's in like here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Writers Group, where, it's a group of people and they, kind of get together and they exchange ideas and that kind of thing. So there's strength in numbers. So I think that would be probably one of the other things I would tell everybody is, hey, get with people that write, because a lot of that will rub off on you as well. Some of their ideas you might not have even thought of, and it's going to make you a better writer.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And find people that write the same kind of books you write. I just found out, and I'm learning, because I've been here in this location for 2 years and I'm still finding people, that there is a romance writers group in Western Jacksonville that is about an hour from my house. I would love to go over there and meet those romance writers.
Yeah.
I belong to the Sisters in Crime group, which is mystery writers, because I'm a mystery writer. I write mystery/romance, not rom-com. I have one that's kind of rom-com-ish.
Yeah.
Not really. And so finding people that write in your category is huge.
Yep. And I have, friends all over the country. I've got a friend in Colorado. I've got, actually, there's a friend here in Atlanta too. So you can find them all over the world. They're spread out. I met, a woman who's in Australia, and she sent me, some of her work before. I've sent her some of my work and all that. So it's a big, beautiful world out there as far as people that want to write, and they will, and it's like a good, we haven't talked about community, but it's a good give and take where it's like, hey, I'm learning from this person, they're learning from me, and it's going to help us both become better. And of course, we're going back to the rejection thing. And also, is my writing worth anything? You need to lean on those people sometimes in times of despair and times of, just, feeling, man, my self-worth as a writer is just, it's taken a nosedive. And those people can kind of help pull you through. There's been a zillion times when I'm like, you know what? I'm not good enough to do this. I just can't do it. And then, of course, the next morning I'll kind of sleep. It's like a being drunk kind of thing. It's like the next morning you sleep it off, you have a totally different outlook, because you've talked with your friends and they're like, hey, stick with it. We're in this thing together. And when one of us wins, we all win. And so if you can have kind of that community, if you can kind of find people to have that bond with, that is huge.
Yes, it is. That is so important, because as writers, we're so solitary.
Yeah.
We work alone. We get our ideas alone. We develop them alone.
Yeah. It's a lonely, lonely life. But in people that are first-time writers, and Lana, you could probably expound on this as well, but people that are writing for the first time, when you start creating characters and you start creating locations and situations and scenes and those kind of things, your characters become real to you. There's times where I've spoken to my characters before. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? Because they are real to you. And to me, and this is just for me, not for anybody else, but for me, they have to be real to me, because if they're not real to me, how can I write about them? How can I create them? In the book that I'm working on that hopefully will be released soon, I started thinking about what the female protagonists look like. And she has red hair, but I started thinking about, okay, well, there's red hair. Okay, I picture that. But I thought about what makes her different, what makes her unique. And so I wrote a sentence in there about how she had a scar over her left eye. So then, of course, later on, it's revealed why she had a scar. She had an accident in college where she collided with somebody during an intramural basketball game, but that kind of thing. But again, she became real to me because these little itsy bitsy details that make them real people. Sometimes when I'm not feeling, like I'm writing my best, I'll look at the laptop and I'll say, you know what, guys, take the night off, go have some fun. No good is coming of our little session tonight. So just go out, go to the bar, go to the restaurant, get something to eat. We'll return tomorrow, and we'll fix this tomorrow. But tonight it ain't happening. Go out and have some fun. But I think if you can make your characters real like that, it just, at least for me, it makes it such a difference in making them believable to the reader.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I just love that, because they do. You're spending time with your friends.
Yeah.
When you're in the book, when it gets to be that real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had withdrawal too after I finished the book. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten to the end of a book? Have you ever thought, God, I need more. I've fallen in love with this character. I need more. You can't end it now, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You got to think of what other adventures are they going to get into?
Yeah. And I haven't told Red this yet, but there's a couple of my characters I've developed a big crush on. So it's like, God, I hate to end this book because I'm having so much fun with this character, but
Oh, yeah.
oh well.
My last book, I was thinking about the love interest. The main character is a woman, and then there's this very attractive man that lives in the apartment downstairs. And I thought, well, what can I do for this? And I'm single. I've been divorced, and I'm single for 15 years. I've been single, so I'm having fun. I'm like, okay, what kind of guy would I like?
Yeah.
And I just do my dream guy.
Yeah.
And then one of my beta readers put in the comments, I want one like that.
Love that. Hey, you must have written that guy up just perfectly. If somebody could see that and say, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that was so much fun. But then somebody in the review said, this guy's a little too perfect. Well, in book 2, I'm going to have to give him some flaws.
Yeah,
I'm just going to have to do that. Yeah.
You're going to have to knock him down a peg.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love that story.
That's a fun part of what we do.
Yeah, it is.
Special offer for everyone listening. And what would that be?
Well, and actually, if we want to come up with a trivia question or if we want to come up with a question, I don't know, but I would be happy to send an autographed copy of my latest book, which is going to come out hopefully next month, to one of the lucky viewers that are going to be on the podcast. So Lana, what do you think? Should we do you want to put a trivia question together and then just maybe put it on your website or maybe on your Facebook page or your Instagram page, or what do you think?
Let's do it on YouTube.
YouTube, perfect.
Yes, go over to the YouTube channel. And if you don't know where the YouTube channel is, go to fictionwriterspodcast.com and click on the YouTube icon there. And then put something in the comments. Maybe at the end, where we are now. So if you listen to the end, you're going to get a special word. So what would the special word be?
The special word, let's say, you know what? Well, let's say the special word is cinnamon, because I have described my redheaded characters as having cinnamon colored hair or cinnamon hair. And then this book that's coming up, when the main character meets the love interest, his name is Mark, her name is Catherine. And when he meets her for the first time, he says to himself, oh my gosh, she's standing there in all her cinnamon glory. So let's use the word cinnamon as our special word.
Yes, I love that. Nobody's going to stumble onto that without knowing.
That's right.
So write cinnamon in the comments, and then we'll do a drawing.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Excellent. Ivan, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun today, and I really appreciate you being with us today.
Oh, Lana, my appreciation to you. Thank you so much for having me on. It has been a delightful conversation, and anytime you would like to have me back, I would love to come back and talk to you.
Well, next time you have a book come out, let me know. Shoot me an email.
You got it. You got it. Hopefully this will be the first of many Zoomies that we'll have together.
That'd be terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much. And thank you for being with us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana Mcara, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.